Now, the Hunt Palmer Show.
A magic beyond anything you could ever imagine.
You are now listening to the Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Sagrera Farms on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Locking down the middle of the day.
You really think that's the best idea?
Live from the Raising Cane's studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
It's quite a piece of work.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Raising Cane's studio downtown in the capital city on this Thursday. It means we're brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Plenty to do here, working towards the weekend. Appreciate you hanging out with us. Jacob Beck, Cassie Spazzali back there on the ones and twos. I'm going to pick Saints and Giants coming up in our next segment. SEC games this weekend against the spread. Today's my last day of the week. I'm with the Myers man tomorrow as he had the tonsils removed earlier today. His mom's got him today. I'm on duty tomorrow, so no show for me. Taylor Sharp will be in. So I got to knock out some of the normal Friday things that we do. So we'll get a Saints pick. We'll get some SEC picks against the spread. Chris Blair is going to be with us at 2:15. Luke Johnson from Saints practice at 2:30. So lots and lots and lots to get to. Let's crank it up the way we do every single day with our Genesis opening drive.
It's time for Hunt's opening drive, presented by Genesis of Baton Rouge.
So Brian Kelly met with the media yesterday, twice actually. He had the SEC teleconference in the morning. We talked about that on yesterday's show. He also met with the media after practice. Usually that's a Thursday thing. On the bye week, they're going to be a little bit lighter on Thursday and Friday of this week. He'll take the weekend off. So he met with the media following practice today. And there were some injury updates that we'll get to in a second. I want to talk about the running game. But one of the questions that Brian Kelly was asked that he gave a very direct answer to is what I want to highlight from yesterday's press conference. And it was about Michael Van Buren's availability in a package to potentially come in, be a little bit more dynamic athletically to help out the running game, maybe in short yardage, maybe in the red zone, in the tight zone. And so is that in there? And Brian Kelly gave an answer about his backup quarterback.
Yeah, we have that package in. We have short yardage runs for quarterbacks. It's just I'm not going to take Garrett Nussmeier out of the game to run short yardage. So we've predicated all that on, the type of formations that we run in short yardage, and we gear it towards our quarterback. If he's not our quarterback, we have some different answers if it's Michael.
So to translate that more directly, that means we're not going to sub Garrett Nussmeier out of the game, put Michael Van Buren in the game because of this situation, and then do something different in our offense that we wouldn't have done with Garrett Nussmeier in the game. Put more directly, Garrett Nussmeier is not coming out in these short yardage situations. The one short yardage situation that lives in my brain about this team, and it had nothing to do with anything, and I don't even think anyone remembers that it happened, but I remember it. LSU at the end of the game against Southeastern Louisiana. Sorry. Let me go back. Against Louisiana Tech. LSU at the end of the game against Louisiana Tech had the starting offense in and first and goal from the 3 in a game that was already decided. So half the stadium's empty, more than half the stadium's empty. Nobody's watching nationally, but I'm in the press box. I'm watching. First and goal from the 3. They ran the ball 3 times against Louisiana Tech and didn't score a touchdown. Now, what are the consequences of that? Nothing at all. You won the game easily, doesn't matter. But it just, to me, was emblematic of this group's inability to traditionally run the ball forward. And so you start thinking about ways that you can do that a little more creatively. And while Michael Van Buren has not been a dynamic running threat in his year and a half in college football, he didn't run it a ton at Mississippi State last year. You can turn on his high school tape and you can watch him move around in practice. He is an athletic guy that would give you a little bit more juice in a quarterback run game than Garrett Nussmeier can. Garrett Nussmeier is more athletic than he plays, but he's not a running threat. And Michael Van Buren is, especially when you're trying to get 3 yards, when you're trying to get 2 yards, right? That's what we're talking about. We're talking about short 3rd and 2. We're talking about 3rd and goal from the 2 or the 3. We're not talking about, hey, we need you to run for 85 yards in this game. We need you to run for 2 touchdowns. We need you to be Jaden Daniels. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about being a little bit more creative in the run game. And Brian Kelly says directly we're not doing that. Here's the other thing that I read from that. You don't have to take Garrett Nussmeier out of the game to do that. all you have to do is split him out wide. And then snap it to Juwan Johnson. And put Juwan Johnson back there with Caden Durham. Or motion Xavion Thomas into the backfield with Juwan Johnson and do it. And we have not seen LSU do that to this point in the game. We have seen LSU do that in practice. And my belief is that you're going to see more of Juwan Johnson in these types of creative ways moving forward. I don't think Shane Beamer's listening to me right now. I don't think Kalen DeVore is listening to me right now. I don't think Brent Venables is listening to me right now. This is what I do think. I think Juwan Johnson's going to throw a pass at some point. I think they're going to snap it to Juwan Johnson at some point. I think he's going to run some read option stuff at some point. But they're not going to do it with Michael Van Buren. That's my read on the situation. So I think I got a couple text messages about a story that I wrote about it and then about the quote in the press conference. And people were like, this is ridiculous. Nussmeier can't run. Like, put Van Buren in. Let him do this. And I'm like, maybe not. Maybe not. Again, this is not a court of law. Brian Kelly can say we're not going to do it and then go out there and do it in the next game. There's no penalty for that. But I do believe you're going to see Juwan Johnson in some creative ways, and I think that they're going to work on some of that stuff during this bye week. One of the things that they're having a little bit of trouble doing is filling out their starting offense during this bye week. You know that Garrett Nussmeier is not taking the snaps. Brian Kelly said yesterday that he is not taking any of the first-team reps. He's doing some virtual reps on the virtual reality. Michael Van Buren's taking all the first-team reps this week. There are a couple of guys out there that aren't able to participate as well. Weston Davis is one of them. We knew that Weston Davis got hurt pregame. We didn't know what that injury was or how significant it was. And Brian Kelly alluded to the severity of the injury. Sounds like a pretty nasty pregame incident, to be quite frank. This is what happened to Weston Davis.
Weston got hurt in pregame. Caught a helmet, fractured his nose, and was concussed. So he had a head injury as well. He's moving forward. He's doing well. My expectations is that he can clear the protocol, but that's one thing I never like to get into with the protocol in terms of who can and who can't. But he's moving in the right direction.
First of all, I've watched a lot of pregame warmups in my day. I know that at times the offensive and defensive linemen will kind of thud on a snap. To break your nose and get a concussion in pregame sounds to me, again, I don't know what happened, and this is not important. What's important is what Weston Davis' health, but sounds to me like he didn't have a helmet on or something. That's a severe collision in pregame with your own team to have that happen. Unfortunately, it did, and Weston's trying to clear concussion protocol, and you certainly want the best for him. But Carius Curran did fill in for Weston Davis in the game on Saturday, played right tackle. He's a guy that we saw a lot of in spring ball. He turned a lot of heads in spring ball, and then you saw him in fall camp working out at left tackle. And then late in fall camp, they put him out at right tackle, and Brian Kelly said that was to compete with Weston Davis. They wanted some competition there. And now you saw him play a little bit at right tackle when Weston Davis and DJ Chester were unavailable in the first half of that game. And Brian Kelly talked about what he saw on tape from the true freshman right tackle.
He reminded me of Emory Jones as a true freshman. If you remember, Emory technically was not very sound, but he was, fighting for dear life and was really active, had a lot of hustle errors, but he's hustling and playing physical. It's just, it's hard to be a technician at this point. So we're going to take what we can get from him, and that's hard play, physical play, can move some people.
Weston Davis and Carius Curran are the two most highly rated recruits on campus for LSU on the offensive line. Weston Davis was a five-star. Carius Curran was a five-star, the number one interior offensive lineman in the country. Those two dudes and Solomon Thomas are thought of as the biggest talents on that offensive line. And we know that Weston Davis has had his struggles early. We know that Carius Curran has dealt with some injuries, hasn't gotten as many reps as you might like since August 1st. But I'm curious to see how that kind of shakes out on the right tackle. I think that Weston Davis's injury has opened the door a little bit for Brad Davis and for Brian Kelly to evaluate what Carius Curran can give them. It sounds like there were some errors, but there's undoubtedly a lot of talent. There's undoubtedly a lot of talent with Weston Davis as well. But you're looking for any answer you can possibly find up front right now to get better play, to get better push up front, and to better protect Garrett Nussmeier, whatever quarterback is back there. And this is a great week to get looks. And right now, Weston Davis is not available to do that, and Carius Kern is. So I'm not at practice. I'm not there grading practice. I'm not talking to anybody about practice. I don't have any hard data to give you about practice. But it's just a reasonable assumption to make to go, hey, if the starter's not out there, at least the backup is getting extended reps that the coaching staff's going to evaluate. And if they see something that looks encouraging, that might look a little bit better than what you saw in the first month of the season, maybe there's an opportunity to get that guy a little bit more action in the games. You don't have any more play around games here until Halloween. You've got to go a month where you've got really good teams across from you every single week. So there's no more Southeastern. There's no more Louisiana Tech. Western Kentucky's way down the line. So your best looks are in practice, and this is a good week to get those looks. Weston Davis not out there. Carius Kern is. So it's going to be an interesting situation next week to see what they decide to do at right tackle. But I think that door is probably open. The last guy they talked about is Caden Durham. I'll kind of give you the nuts and bolts. We don't have to play Brian Kelly's sound because he talked about it. He's feeling a little bit better. He's doing some half-speed run track drills, like where you need to go on the run without any tackling or full collision blocking. He just a little bit banged up with that ankle. This is a great time for a bye week for him. We know how tough that Caden Durham is. He played through those dislocated toes last year and was able to be very productive for a true freshman dealing with that. I know that he had an insert in his cleat for a lot of the year last year and was still able to go out there and be productive. So he's really tough. I would expect him to play against South Carolina. That's just my gut based on the nature of the injury and the tea leaves that you're getting from Brian Kelly. Kind of tell that he wasn't going to go last week based on the questionable. Brian Kelly will give you a probable midweek if you feel like it's likely they play. And so I think you'll probably get that this coming week with Caden Durham. The other guy is Aaron Anderson, who just is banged up everywhere. He sat the second half against Ole Miss. He just too many injuries. There's just too much going on with him. So this is just a good week off for him. I'm confident he won't practice really at all this week. Then I would expect that he's got a good chance to give it a go later next week to see if he's good to go against South Carolina. But it's a banged up football team after a month, as you would expect. Time now to get those guys the rest that they need, including Garrett Nussmeier. And then you see what those guys can give you coming up a week from Saturday against the South Carolina Gamecocks, which, by the way, South Carolina's upcoming schedule is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever looked at in my life. If you look at what Carolina is about to play, they're on their bye week right now. And next week, they come to Tiger Stadium to play what's probably a pretty cranky LSU team. But beyond that, LSU's ranked 13th, no matter what you LSU fan think of them at this point. They're ranked 13th. The next week, South Carolina plays number 5 Oklahoma. The next week, they play number 10 Alabama. Then it's at number 4 Ole Miss. Then it's at number 5 Texas A&M. That's the next 5 for South Carolina. So buckle up to the Gamecock fans there in Columbia. It's going to be quite an October for that crew there in Garnet and Black. All right, when we come back, Jackson Dart coming to the Dome to take on the New Orleans Saints. They got a big win against the Chargers last week. I'll give you my thoughts. I'll give you a pick on the game as well when we come back.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Swing Easy Golf Club in Baton Rouge. SwingEasyGCBR.com is that website. If you're looking to work on your game, Swing Easy Golf Club is an awesome place to do that. I know what driving range conditions can be in Baton Rouge. It can be 100 degrees. It can rain every afternoon. There can be a situation where all the balls are kind of crummy and you're not really sure what you're getting at them because they're all scuffed. Might not be enough grass on the range, no matter wherever you are. Maybe as the month goes on, it starts to get a little bit dark when you get off of work. It's just tough to find a great spot to work on your game. Well, Swing Easy Golf Club is going to be the same every time you go. You've got those indoor hitting bays. You got the TrackMan. It gives you the ability to see your ball flight, to see your carry distance, to see your club face at impact. And you can get a great driving range session in from the comfort of the air conditioning right there inside at Swing Easy Golf Club. And oh, by the way, you want to go up to the front desk and grab a cold beer while you're at it? They got one of those for you as well. It's Swing Easy Golf Club. I talk about your ability to socialize and hang out and have fun there all the time, but it's also an awesome spot to work on your game. You can get membership to Swing Easy Golf Club, and if you do that, you get your first 7 hours every month free. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, go by and see them. They're on Segan at Perkins. It's Swing Easy Golf Club. You can find them online at swingeasygcbr.com. swingeasygcbr.com.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
right, chugging along here on this Thursday, brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Had a conversation with my guy, Sean Sagrera, a little bit earlier today. Want to clear something up. It's not a 3-year waiting list at Sagrera Farms, if you got that from some of my reads in the past. No, every cow is a 3-year journey from being born there on the farm, raised on grass, finished on grain, aged 45 days before you can bring it on home. But it's just a week or so if you go by and place that order, that 3-year journey starts at the calf's birth there at Sagrera Farms, and they've got 30 that they have just had born on the farm this week. If you'd like to go by the farm, it's an awesome time to go see them. The fall, the weather's going to cool off a little bit. If you like to go learn a little bit about the process and see what you might be able to pick up and bring home, this is a great time to do it. I want you to give Sean a call at 719-1723. Again, that's 719-1723. Some of the best beef in the country, top 1% right here at Sagrera Farms. Things have been going awesome up there. We appreciate y'all's response to our partnership here with Sagrera Farms. There's only 2 spots you can get Sagrera Farms beef. You can do it at Supper Club. You can do it on the farm at Sagrera Farms. So go by and see Sean, take a tour of the farm, and get some of that delicious, flavorful beef to pack your freezer for the fall. All right, Saints and Giants, noon in the Dome on Sunday. This is one that we've had circled since, training camp, right? You felt like it might be a tall order to win week 1 against a team with a seasoned quarterback like Kyler Murray. You had a chance, but you were going to be underdogs, and you were, and you lost. And you felt like San Francisco was going to be a really difficult game when you reported for training camp. You didn't know Brock Purdy was going to be out. Sure. You didn't know George Kittle was going to be out. Sure. But you felt like that would be a tough one to win, and it was. And then weeks 3 and 4, I don't know anybody around here that thought the Saints had a really good chance to go to either Seattle or Buffalo and win. And you didn't. But this is the 2-week span that you absolutely penciled when you were right there at the top of training camp. And so you've got to start now. And this game with the Giants is very interesting. And I think, to me, there's one significant key to this game for New Orleans. Now, it's a difficult one, but it is a key. You've got to block this front from the Giants. If you can't, you have no chance. And Spencer Rattler's got to understand what that front looks like, and that his front right now, offensively, is a little bit compromised. You know that Ruiz isn't going to be in. You can call that a positive or a negative. I'm not here to legislate that in this segment, but he's not going to play, obviously. Trevor Penning, Dylan Radins, both banged up. We'll see what the rest of the week holds. It's only Thursday at this point. We'll see what that looks like on Sunday. But you have to get these guys blocked. Brian Burns, Abdul Carter, Kayvon Thibodeau. I mean, these are first-round dudes. And then, of course, you got a 3-time Pro Bowler in Dexter Lawrence as well. This is as talented and ferocious a defensive front as there is. But it is the backbone of the Giants' defense, and then beyond it, you can take advantage of them. So it starts up front. You've got to do what you can to keep those guys out of the backfield. And then it comes on to your potential advantage. Rashid Shaheed, Chris Olave, and this wide receiving core, Brandon Cooks, you have to win against a not very good Giants secondary. You have to win. You have to win off the line of scrimmage. You have to win on the 50-50 balls. You have to win down the field. You have to help your quarterback. And I hope that Spencer Rattler will take some chances against that group. Now, you can't sit back there and try to chuck it a bunch against this team. This is a Giants group that had 6 sacks against Justin Herbert. You can't let that happen. But you've got to win down the field. I trust the Saints are going to run it. Great job running the ball last week against Buffalo. Very nice job. You used Spencer Rattler in the run game a little bit. You got Kamara going. You got Miller going. And I think that'll be just fine against this Giants group. I think it scares me more with the pass rush. And the pass rush creates bad decisions, creates really negative plays, creates real problems. So if you tell me the Saints can hold up front reasonably, 2 sacks given up, 2 sacks, not the 6 that LA gave up to the Giants last week. Okay, that's a start. Win down the field against a suspect Giants secondary. Do that. And you ought to be in reasonable shape. And I'm not asking you to score 30 points. Why am I not asking you to score 30 points? Because on the other side of the ball, you've got Jackson Dart making his first road start, second start of his NFL career. And you might say, well, Jackson Dart started last week and they were a winless team. They beat an undefeated Chargers team. What a huge win. He must have played great. Well, I don't know if he played great. He managed the game pretty well. They won. But he went 13 of 20 for 111 yards. Threw a touchdown. He got sacked 5 times. He ran 10 times for 54 yards and a touchdown. He functioned in a game where LA had no game tape to work off of that isn't the preseason. Now the Saints have kind of seen what Brian Daboll and this offense want to do with Jackson Dart, and they've got a week to adjust to that. And oh, by the way, Jackson Dart does not have Malik Neighbors, by far the best weapon on this New York offense. By far. They're going to try to feed the ball to Cam Scatterbo. He got 25 carries last week and also added 2 catches. 27 touches for Scatterbo last week in a win over the Chargers. That's a guy you're going to have to key on. But I don't think Jackson Dart is going to show up and throw for 285 and 3 scores against the Saints on Sunday. You got a group running out there. No Malik Neighbors means you got Wan'Dale Robinson, you got Darius Slate, and you got Theo Johnson. It's not, he's far and away their best option. I think the Giants are going to struggle to crack 20 on Sunday in the Dome. Keep in mind, Herbert helped them out with a couple of picks last week. The defense allowed the Giants to get to the finish line without being uber productive offensively. This is going to be a low-scoring game. It just is. And by nature, low-scoring games are closer. There's not enough room to separate if everybody's got a low point total. So to me, this is a real chance to win. Is it a must-win? Of course, it is not a must-win. The Saints will not play a must-win game all year. Must-win games mean you must win or you're toast. That's not the case. Is it a, you kind of need to win this game? Yeah, it is a, you kind of need to win this game. Rookie quarterback, first road start, no best weapon out there, weak secondary. It's time for the Saints to go out there and play a really good game. Here's the deal with Kellen Moore in this game. Brian Daboll, there's not a lot of evidence that he's a great football coach at the head coach level in the NFL. Not a lot of evidence of that. He could prove me wrong over the next 4 years in New York. They may win the Super Bowl in 2 years. But right now, not a lot of evidence of that. His roster is not very good. Great defensive front, lacking weapons on offense. They haven't had a good offensive line in forever there in New York. Secondary is iffy. Like, it's not a great roster. So if you're Kellen Moore, you're Brandon Staley, you're Doug Nussmeier, like, this is a fair fight. You've got a fair fight. It's on your home field, and it's a fair fight. San Francisco's got a better roster than you. Seattle's got a better roster than you. Buffalo's got a quarterback that's eons better than anything you got. Okay, you got beat. Not this week. This is a fair fight. It is time to go out there and show that you're not in over your head on this Sunday. If the Saints go out there and lose this game by 2 scores, that's a red flag. Saints go out there and lose this game on a field goal, well, tough. You really needed to win that one. Saints go out there and win, okay, that is a step in the right direction. That is a positive. Saints really go out there and assert themselves, win by 2 scores, you got to feel pretty good about that. There are a lot of ranges of emotion that are possible this weekend. I have been pessimistic entering the last 2 weeks. I don't know what other emotion there would be to have when you look at those 2 matchups on those 2 home fields in those 2 environments. You throw all that out on Sunday. In a lot of ways, this is a more important game than those 2. Because this is the one where you show how you match up with your peers. Unfortunately, the Giants are your peer. That's why you're playing them, because you finished last year, and so did they. They're the worst team in their division. You're the worst team in your division. It's time to take a step forward. And then you might feel decent about yourself going into the next week playing another team that's not that good. So this is a big one. I've got a game prediction, and I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'm going to pick the Saints to win this game 20-16. Hold Giants to some field goals. Block those guys up front. Hit a couple of plays down the field. Saints, no plays over 40 yards on the season. Hit a couple of those. Hit one at least. Make some plays, Spencer Rattler. I spent all week suggesting, hey, this is the game where you can swing the door open for Tyler Shuck to be the guy. Or you can slam it shut for a few weeks with a solid effort in this game on Sunday. I got the Saints 20-16 to beat the New York Football Giants. All right, Beck, you think the Saints can get a win here?
I think they can.
Do you think the Saints will get a win here?
Yes, I do.
Wow.
At home.
Confidence
I'll take it.
oozing. Now, you have a lot of confidence in the Saints who have inspired none of that to this point. Do you have confidence in me in the next segment, SEC games against the spread, even though I've inspired none of it to this point?
I'll let you answer that question.
No, I asked you.
You know the answer to that question. Huh?
Well, the Saints are worse than me.
That's debatable.
I mean, they haven't had a win. I've got a bunch of wins. I got like 19 of them.
You have like 3 times as many losses, though.
Wasn't really talking about losses.
Yeah.
Specifically.
Yeah.
We'll do SEC picks against the spread next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. David Duvall and his team, 30 years redesigning and remodeling bathrooms and closets. They handle everything, as David says, soup to nuts. They handle every single aspect of the renovation. So you don't have to call 3 different contractors. One does the floor. Somebody's got to handle what's going on with the shower and the tub to shower conversion. You got the vanity that's being impacted, so you got to get somebody to handle the woodwork. No. David and his crew do all of it. If you're curious what that might look like, go to the website, onebathandclosets.com. There are pictures everywhere of their great work. They do incredible vanity work. They're able to take out showers, put closets, linen closets in where that shower was, take the tub out, put a gorgeous glass walk-in shower in, redo your floors, handle the mirrors, everything. They can do it all in the bathroom or with those closets. You just got to make that phone call. If you want an upgrade at your home, but you don't want to move, David Vaughn and his team can do it. I tell you about the small projects all the time, the tub to shower conversions, big ones too. They can do it. So call David, say, I heard about you on Hunt's show, like to talk about it. He'd sit down with you for free and discuss all the things that he's been doing for better than 3 decades with this gig. It's One Bath and Closets. Find that website online, onebathandclosets.com, onebathandclosets.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Got a busy hour 2 coming at you. There's some new NIL news to get to. They're trying to put more rules in place. It's actually humorous to sit back and watch the NCAA and college sports try to scramble to catch up with all this stuff, and they're doing an incredibly poor job of that, but we'll talk about it in the second hour. Chris Blair, voice of the Tigers, with us at 2:15. Luke Johnson from Saints practice at 2:30, so lots and lots to do in hour number 2. I've also got a take to end this hour that I'll get to in about 15 minutes. It's pretty hot, but I think I'm right. So I'll get to that to finish off the hour. It's always disappointing when I got to scroll down in our doc that we use every day and look at my record against the spread. Last year, picked 112 SEC games against the number, went 4 games under 500, 54 and 58. Not great, not awful, just right there between the mayo and mustard.
Kind of like Hunt in general, just pretty slightly above average.
Slightly above average overall. We'll take that. And then this year I look up and I'm 19 and 29. That's not going to pay the bills. That's not what the people. I mean, I know there are dozens of you who tune in every single week who want to get my picks and get straight to the window, get as rich as possible, and I've let you down. You're struggling, potentially starving, could be foreclosures happening everywhere because I've let you down with a 19 and 29 record. We've got to turn it around this week. Now, there's a key change here. We're making picks on Thursday instead of Friday because I'm not going to be here tomorrow. Maybe that's the mojo change that we need. But either way, We're getting into week 6 here. We got to get some hits on a light slate. Let's start it now. All right, 11 o'clock, ABC, Kentucky, not very good, against Georgia, who lost a game last week. Georgia's laying at 20.5 in this game. Now, Kentucky is 99th in the country in total offense. They are 122nd in the country in passing offense. That's not good on offense. Georgia is at home. They are cranky. What about Kentucky's defense? Well, they're 13th in the league in run defense. This feels like 45-13 to me, just like an absolute boat racing. As I've mentioned last week, I've mentioned this week multiple times, Kentucky is not good at anything. This is Mark Stoops' last game as the head coach. They get run off the field in Athens. I will do the opposite. I will take Kentucky plus 20.5.
Oh, wow.
I will
Hunt.
take Kentucky plus 20.5.
I can't believe you're finally going to it.
2:30, ESPN, Texas at Florida. Florida catching 6.5 here. Florida, total offense. Is this good? 115th in the country. In fact, that is not good. Rush offense, 107th in the country. With Jaden Ball, 107th in the country. That is not good. Well, how's Texas defensively? Well, they're 4th in the country in total defense. They're 3rd in the country in run defense. I think Arch Manning needs to run in this game. He's throwing it too much. He's not accurate. You're an athlete. Go, run. Move the chains with your feet. Florida is going to fire Billy Napier on Sunday after this game at home when it's empty in the fourth quarter. If I'm taking one fired coach, I'm taking 2 fired coaches. Give me Florida plus 6.5. Sun Belt Billy. There's no way they cover that spread. All right, 2:30. This is apparently the biggest game of the day. Vanderbilt is at Alabama. 10.5 is the number. Here's Vanderbilt's opponents in terms of scoring defense in this win streak they're on. Georgia State is 136th in the country in scoring defense. Do you know how many teams there are? 136. They're last in scoring defense. Virginia Tech, they fired their coach. They're 100th in scoring defense. Utah State, they probably should fire their coach. They're 115th in scoring defense. Charleston Southern gave up 35 points last week to Lindenwood. They also gave up 34 earlier to William and Mary. They lost both of those games. This is who Vandy is running up major point totals on. Let's not overthink this, folks. Vanderbilt is playing Alabama in football. This is going to be a blowout in the first half. Absolute whitewashing
like it was last year
of Vanderbilt. Jalen Milroe, 2 turnovers in that game. Vanderbilt is a fine story. Fine team. Can score 70 on Utah State or something. They beat South Carolina. That's awesome. They can beat Kentucky. They cannot go to Bryant-Denny and stay within 10.5 points. Anchor down, give me the doors. Obviously,
Great
taking
pick,
Diego
Hunt.
Pavia
Great pick.
and Vanderbilt. Kent State is going to Oklahoma. I had to learn about Kent State football today, and I'll tell you, I learned a lot. Kent State is 128th out of 136 teams on third downs. Bad on offense. 132nd of 136 in rushing offense. They're even worse at that. That's their offense. How's the defense, you might ask? Well, on defense, with total defense, they're 136. That's dead last. This is the worst team in the FBS statistically. That terrible, terrible offense for the Golden Flashes. Oklahoma allows 118 yards passing per game. That is 3rd nationally. I don't see any way possible that Kent State scores a point in this game. There's no way. And I don't know how many possible they're going to give up, but it's going to be a lot. And it's going to be a lot more than 45.5. I'm taking Nick Saban's alma mater, the Golden Flashes, plus 45.5. I have just bet, quote unquote, on the worst team in the nation. Hopefully John Mateer's injury helps me out there. That's a terrible play as well. These are awful picks.
Incredible picks. Huh?
Last one, night game. Mississippi State at Texas A&M. 14.5 the number in this one. The Aggies, of course, are favored. Mississippi State has played tough. They're 5th in the SEC in scoring offense, 6th in the SEC in rushing offense. A&M has shown flashes, but not consistency. Good in South Bend on offense, but they were bad on defense. Good against Auburn on defense, bad on offense. They're also the worst third down offense in the SEC, 31%. I did like that they ran for 200 yards on Auburn, though. I think that's an impressive effort. 14.5, that's a lot. That's a lot of points. Give me the Aggies minus the 14.5. These picks have been awful. I have wagered on the worst team in the country. I took Vanderbilt against Alabama. I got two coaches who are definitely getting fired on Sunday. And then Mississippi State, who is going on the road and hasn't probably won a road game since Reagan was elected. These are my selections.
Hunt, you've done what you needed to do, okay? This needed to be done. You're probably going to go 4-1, and we're going to be fine.
Which of those teams could possibly cover?
I actually, okay, of course I think Vanderbilt has a chance. I know you don't think so.
Because they beat Charleston Southern.
No, okay, that's not the point. But I do think they can do it.
Oh, it was because they beat Utah State. They beat South Carolina with no Lenora Sellers. Is that it? Virginia Tech, who fired their coach.
All right, that's fine.
This team is terrible.
Yeah, they're terrible.
I probably won't be able to say that when LSU goes to Nashville to play.
No,
but for
probably
the purpose
not.
of this week, I can say that. I got two coaches that are getting fired.
Kentucky
I said they're going to cover.
Kentucky covered against Ole Miss.
They did.
I think they can. Look.
That was on the Bluegrass at the big grocery store.
It was. The grocery store is a known. And the grocery store is known as a very tough place to play. But maybe Georgia's got it. Maybe they're just going to be. I mean, maybe they're angry, or maybe they're just like licking their wounds after last week.
And then old Coach Stoops going to roll up in there with a bottle of Jack Daniels and lay it to him.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious. This is the saddest day in my picking. This is the worst set of picks I've ever come up with.
Well,
if I show up on Monday and this is done well, this is a disaster.
Hunt, I mean, I've tracked your picks last year when you did the first time you did the Costanza picks. I don't remember which week it was.
It's like week 6.
I don't know what week it was, but you went like 6-2 or something like that. And one of them was the Vanderbilt pick, by the way. I remember that.
Over
now.
Bama?
One of them was the Vandy pick over
week?
Bama. It was.
If I'm nothing if not consistent.
Yes, I remember that now.
Again.
Yeah, you said all the same things you said about Vanderbilt this week, and then they ended up covering and winning, of course.
You would think the folks that place the big wagers in Vegas would want a little more of the action that's got going on in my brain. But unfortunately, they haven't tapped into that quite yet. All right, those are my picks. Kentucky plus 20.5. Florida plus 6.5, Vanderbilt plus 10.5, Kent State
Golden Flashes
plus 45.5. I laughed so hard when I was looking at all their offensive stats and I was like, man, they're almost dead last on third downs. Man, they're almost dead last in rushing offense. And then I switched over to defense and they were actually dead last.
Yep.
Like I scroll, when it's Kent State, I'm going to scroll all the way to the bottom to see how, and there's like, oh, they're literally 136th. They're dead last.
They beat Merrimack 21-17.
Merrimack. Can't give you a location on that one.
I have no idea.
Shout out to the Golden Flashes. Nick Saban, Antonio Gates. I think that's all. Josh Cribbs?
Maybe.
I think he was Toledo.
Oh, yeah, the Rockets. Josh Cribbs. Yeah, no, he was Kent State.
State?
Played at Kent State.
All right, I got 3.
Probably got his number retired.
That's my quota. Kent State players, I have reached the level that I'm comfortable going to.
He played quarterback at Kent State.
Josh Cribbs, one of the best kick returners ever.
Got some school
also
records.
starred on The League, one of the great shows in television
Very good
history.
show.
All right, as I mentioned before we got into that, I've got a hot take. I know Beck will have an opinion on it. I don't know what it will be, but it's hot, and I think I'm right. We'll do it next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com. Every car on the lot is online at genesisofbatonrouge.com. If you're looking for a short-term rental, Genesis does that. So if you're headed to an LSU road game coming up, or if you've got a fall break trip that's coming up and you don't want to put miles on your vehicle, but you'd also like to get behind the wheel of a Genesis just to kind of see how your family fits in that car, Genesis is happy to do a rental for you. Go see them, Airline at PQ. Take a look at what they've got available to you. They can find a vehicle to get you in for that short-term rental, and it may just transform you for life. You may think, I can't drive anything else but a Genesis. Of course, it's a luxury brand at a reasonable price. That's the motto over at Genesis of Baton Rouge. That's the motto of Genesis overall. Every single model of vehicle is an IHA top safety pick. Not a single one among the group that did not meet that qualification. Some of them are top safety picks plus. So if your family wants to be in one of the safest vehicles on the road, happens to be a luxury vehicle that comes with an incredible warranty and a great staff at an unbelievable location and facility, Genesis of Baton Rouge is your spot. Go see them, Airline at PQ. Check out that inventory online, genesisofbatonrouge.com, genesisofbatonrouge.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Sagrera Farms.
Thursday shows brought to you by Sagrera Farms Premium Angus Beef. Appreciate you hanging out with us here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. I've got a take here. We'll see what Beck's thoughts are on said take. But I believe this to be true. They've been playing baseball at the major league level for almost 150 years. Mason Miller is currently a relief pitcher for the Padres. He is the most unhittable pitcher in the history of baseball. In the history of baseball, he's the most unhittable pitcher. For those that don't pay attention to Major League Baseball, which is most of our listenership, that aren't watching the playoffs, which is most of our listenership, that aren't watching the Cubs play at 2 o'clock in the afternoon the last couple of days, which is most of our listenership, that is not watching the Padres or the A's the last few years. Mason Miller is a reliever for the Padres who hit 104 miles an hour yesterday on a pitch that perfectly hit the intersection between the outside corner and the bottom of the strike zone. He throws 104. His average fastball velocity is about 102. He throws a 93 mile an hour slider and an 82 mile an hour slider. So that's 20 miles an hour difference from his fastball. And I don't know, quite honestly, how anyone ever gets a hit against him, which doesn't happen very often. This year, his batting average against is .096 with the Padres. .096. This year with the Padres, he has struck out 45 in 23 and a third. Over 2 games against the Cubs, he struck out 11 hitters in a row. And you might say, well, everybody strikes out all the time. The Cubs don't strike out that much. They were the team with the 6th fewest strikeouts in Major League Baseball this year. They've got a lot of guys who put the ball in play a lot. And none of them even have a prayer against Mason Miller. Pete Crow Armstrong, who hit 30 home runs this year, is going to win a Gold Glove in center field as one of the most promising rising stars in baseball. Looked like it might have well have been Paul Skeens against Myers Palmer, the 3.5-year-old. Pete Crow Armstrong missed the ball by 2.5 feet on a slider. This is my take beyond the fact that Mason Miller is the most unhittable pitcher in the history of baseball. Humans have not evolved to handle what he does with a baseball. It's too fast. It breaks too much. They can't do anything. I've been watching Major League Baseball very closely. Let's call it 25 years. At that point, I was 12. I've never seen anyone make big league hitters look so stupid.
It's it is really surprising that this guy just kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, he got drafted in the 3rd round by the Athletics, but he went to Gardner Webb.
Yep.
I always wonder how these guys
find velocity.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you turn 90. There are a lot of guys that throw 96.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, some of them at 22 find another gear. Paul Skeens found another gear here.
It's true.
He was in the Air Force.
But 104 is 104, and then the slider is just absurd. I mean, it's he's
got 2 of them. You don't even know which one it is when it starts spinning. If you have time to even notice that it's spinning, and clearly based on the fact that he struck out 11 guys in a row against a playoff team that doesn't strike out that much, here's what Mason Miller did to me, diehard Cubs fan. It was the 5th inning yesterday into the 6th. The Cubs were down 3-0, and I was going, okay, we can't win because Miller's going to pitch here in for 2 innings. I need to make sure the Padres don't score, so he has to pitch in this game, so maybe he can't pitch tomorrow. I don't recall ever feeling that way about a major league pitcher.
And it is an interesting thing to think about with the way that people view baseball in the last few years about how hitters now are just worried about launch angle. It's all 3 outcomes, strikeout, home run. I think one of the bigger things is that the pitchers are just getting ridiculous now. Like there's nobody else really like Mason Miller, but there's so many other guys that throw 100 and then they have an insane breaking ball behind it. Like Roki Sasaki is 23. He might be equivalent stuff with Paul Skeens with his fastball at 100 and that fork ball he throws. I mean, it's absurd what these guys are doing.
The Padres have 4 relievers that throw 100. Their starter yesterday threw 98, and
they have the lefty Borjan. He throws a 92 mile an hour slider,
and they haven't walked anybody in 2 games. Like, thank goodness the Cubs today get to face a pitcher who's 38?
39.
39 years old. So he does not throw 100 anymore. He threw really hard back in the day. He still throws reasonably hard. He doesn't throw like Mason Miller. If you have not watched Mason Miller pitch, hopefully he doesn't throw today. He probably will. But if the Padres advance to the Brewers, just watch him pitch for 1 inning. It's unbelievable. I hope I don't have to see him today. Hour 2 next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.